Week 16 is now in the books. Fantasy Football Championships are set. For me, I'm back in the Fantasy Football Championship thanks to a scoring correction from Sunday night, where the Buffalo Bills get an extra sack, which gives me an extra point, which means I won my game by 0.3, along with my brother-in-law Eric. We co-own a team. So we are off to the Fantasy Championship. Hopefully you don't need a lot of help with the Fantasy Championship coming here, but the next little bit is going to be focused on the world of fantasy football. First, let's help you out with the waiver wire. All right, to help you out, the waiver wire is here. Not usually here for championship week. Hopefully by this point, you have your roster figured out. But injuries happen, bad play happens, anything like that. Maybe not the way to go. Are you going to recommend the Giants again? Probably not. Look, that was a swing, and also that was a swing before we knew that Michael Penix was going to be starting. We thought it was going to be Kirk Cousins again. So, and I said at the time, you have to be insanely desperate. So, I will defend myself a little bit on that. But yeah, look, is that something I would maybe want to scrape off of the internet from me having said? Potentially. Looking at it now, I have a better defense that we're rolling with this week, at least, for the waiver wire. But yeah, let's start at the quarterback spot. We're going with Bryce Young again. He has been good in 4 of the last 5 weeks. He's only 7% rostered, facing a Bucs team that got picked apart last week. And again, Bryce Young is looking pretty good. I really liked what I saw from him last weekend there in the overtime win over the Arizona Cardinals. And we're going with the guy who made that Giants call, a bad call, Michael Penix, at 14% rostered for the Atlanta Falcons. Facing Washington, they had Kenny Pickett almost beat them last week. And Penix, I think, is fine for his first career start and is good at just going from station to station, man. The trains keep moving on time. And you saw Drake London looked better. Bijan Robinson looked better. Kyle Pitts, not so much. That was a really brutal play, and I think he's just not good, which sucks, but is what it is. I do think that again, I don't know if he is going to be a league winner this week, but I do think that he is worth picking up if you are very desperate, say if you lost a Jalen Hurts and don't know what is going to be happening there. Moving on to the wide receiver position. Again, hopefully you have some better options, but given the Tank Dell injury and all of that, maybe you need a Hollywood Brown in your life. 32% rostered, getting 8 targets in his season debut. That could go up. It is a difficult matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think his snap count's going to go up, his target share. I don't know if we'll see like 15 or anything like that, but I think he's going to get enough volume that he at least can be a steady force out there. If you're looking for a home run swing, Jalen Coker at 5% rostered, it is again a great matchup for Carolina. He plays for Carolina, by the way, if you didn't know. It is a great matchup against the Bucs. He has a chance to do well. Last 2 weeks combined, he has 13 targets. He had a really good end zone look that I think changes his day. If he is able to haul it in, he just ends up being out of bounds. But there is some talent in that boy, and I think that he can be someone who can help you out if you need a home run swing in the fantasy championship. At running back, as always, it is the hope that you can find a handcuff or anything like that. Patrick Taylor didn't really work out last week, but which my wife pointed out to me a lot because I may have suggested like, hey, the 49ers running back just got hurt. Maybe take a look at that. And then she put him in and it didn't really work. Now, she won anyway. But still, this week, running back. That's where I was going. Ameer Abdullah. He is the suggestion at 23% rostered. He had 12 touches last week, double-digit points in the last 2 weeks. They are clearly looking for ways to get the ball in his hands. He is lining up as a wide receiver a fair amount. Again, it is not a great offense, but they are really looking at getting him the ball. So if you are super-duper desperate, he could be a play for you. At the tight end spot, it is Chika Okonkwo. We've been talking about him for a little bit. The Titans tight end, 7% rostered. It is a great matchup against Jacksonville. Mason Rudolph is so much better than Will Levis, and this guy is crazy athletic. for a tight end. They need to get the ball in his hands more often than they have been. And the defense. Better suggestion than we had last week, Toxic. It is the Seattle Seahawks defense. They are 20% rostered, facing Chicago, who put up some points in garbage time last week, but still don't look very good. The offensive line there is an issue, and I think Seattle will provide much more resistance in the pass rush than the Detroit Lions did a week ago. So I think Seattle is the way to go with the special teams here, or defense and special teams here this week. So those are the waiver wire ads heading into the Fantasy Football Championship. Let's now go to the dumpster darlings, the unexpected performances from players in the fantasy football semifinal that were either very frustrating because they're out on the waiver wire, devastating because they're on your bench, or just absolutely killer because you happened to go up against someone who had no right starting them and they beat you anyway. These are the fantasy football dumpster darlings. The dumpster darlings for week number 16 in the NFL. For fantasy football purposes, that means the fantasy football semifinals. So each week we go through and see who were the top unexpected performances of the week. What big games were the that helps no one game? The, again, finding the dumpster darlings either out on the waiver wire or on the bench. We begin with Bryce Young. People fell off of that one quick. 7% rostered, 27.12 fantasy points for the Carolina Panthers quarterback. At wide receiver, Olamide Zaccheaus, probably, for Washington. Exactly 0% rostered, 21.5 fantasy points. So guys who were let down by Cooper Kupp, I mean, we all knew going in, you should have picked up Zaccheaus instead. Obviously. That is followed by Kayshon Boutte, who is 3% rostered, 18 fantasy points this week. Our top running back for the week, 23% rostered, Ameer Abdullah, 17 fantasy points. And if you thought, 23, we're getting a little high for ownership percentage for the dumpster darlings, well, we bring it back with Hassan Haskins of the LA Chargers, 0% rostered, 10.9 fantasy points. Our tight end, Chikakwankwo, for the Tennessee Titans, 7% rostered, 14.6 fantasy points. In the flex spot, it is Jamison Crowder for Washington. Again, 0% rostered, 14.5 fantasy points. On the defensive side of things, it was the LA Rams against the Jets at 12% rostered. They got us just 9 fantasy points, but our kicker, Chad Ryland for Arizona, 8% rostered, 15 fantasy points. So we have 3 players on this, 0% rostered. We have another at 3, 2 others at 7, and then one at 8, and then a 12 and a 23, putting up a combined 147 fantasy points. Just absolutely cruel stuff from the fantasy football gods in the fantasy semifinals. Let's now shift to the more real NFL discussion, as it is, once again, time for the NFL Power Rankings coming out of Week 16, heading into the 17th week of the NFL season. Wrong button. Okay, so it is now time for the NFL Power Rankings for week number 17. We begin at the bottom. I think they've clinched at this point. It is the New York Giants. Yes, suggesting them as a fantasy defense last week against the Atlanta Falcons was not the right move. The Atlanta Falcons actually showed some life. The Giants have none left. They are hoopty-hoopty-hooped. They bad. At number 31, it is the Tennessee Titans. They had a bit of a comeback against the Indianapolis Colts. There was an onside kick in a game that at one point was 38-7, but they still suck. And they will be in an interesting spot looking for a quarterback here this offseason. At number 30, it is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have another just dreadful showing against the Las Vegas Raiders, who come in at number 29. They are this week's You Can't Even Tank Right team as they move into the glut of teams that right now are at 3-12 in the NFL, giving the New York Giants spot in the driver's seat right now, looking for that first overall pick. Looking at now how the tiebreakers stand, where do the Raiders fall in draft order? Just based off of that, they only lose one spot. They are only down in third. Now things could change based on different tiebreakers or whatever, but right now they would have the third overall pick instead of second, which I don't think is that bad, but I think it really opens the door for New England. If all that holds, New England has a chance to find a quarterback desperate team, make a big Chicago Bears, Carolina Panthers-esque move, and set themselves up in a very good spot moving forward. At number 28, it is the New York Jets. It's not it. There. At 27, the New England Patriots. Really liked how they battled against the Buffalo Bills, but still do not think that this is a very good football team. At number 26, we have the Chicago Bears. 25, it is the Cleveland Browns. DTR, I think, did a very good job of showing that he is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. At 24, it is New Orleans. It didn't look great. So I don't know. Maybe I should have them below Cleveland or Chicago, but it was really bad last night against the Green Bay Packers. Hey, Deeds. No, you're right on time. Anytime that you come in, you are right on time. Always appreciate Deeds, and happy to have you in the chat here for the final stream of 2024. 23, it is the Carolina Panthers. They actually, again, they have some good things going there. They can't stop a nosebleed defensively, but Chuba Hubbard is a beast, and Bryce Young is at least worth keeping around for another year and not going back into the quarterback waters, murky as they be, as we discussed on the show last week. At 22, it is San Francisco. The offensive line issues are just one step too far out in San Fran. I saw some people criticizing Brock Purdy for the performance that he had over the weekend. I thought he did everything he could running for his life against Miami. I don't put any of that game on him. I thought he was out there battling. Yes, Merry Christmas to you as well, Deeds, and to Toxic too, and everyone watching, whether it is now here live on Twitch or later on YouTube. At 21, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Good win against Tampa Bay on Sunday Night Football. I said in the recap, I am not a Mike McCarthy believer, and I still think the Cowboys should go in a different direction head coach-wise when the season is done. But I will say, I was impressed with the effort that this team showed just hours after being mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. That's fighting for your coach. That's very impressive stuff. At 20, it is the Indianapolis Colts. You don't get to move up after you beat the Tennessee Titans and almost blow a 30-point lead. You kind of just stick around. They might even be down, actually. At number 19, it is the Arizona Cardinals. I was so unimpressed with what I saw from that team against Carolina. Very, very frustrating performance from them. So they drop well down to 19. At 18, it is Michael Penix Jr. and the Atlanta Falcons. This team has some life now because the quarterback can actually move. At 17, we have the Miami Dolphins. Win is a win. You move on, and they keep their playoff hopes alive. At 16, it's Cincinnati. Again, a all-time great offensive season. They still have life in the playoffs with 2 weeks to go. Quite a few scenarios need to go their way. At 15, it's Tampa Bay. That was a really tough loss against the Cowboys, and this defense just shows that you can't have a defense that is that bad. They need to be able to get a stop sometimes, and that was just how that played out for Tampa Bay. In the top half now, we go to the Houston Texans, who come in at number 14. Battled against Kansas City, tough injury. We'll see what they can do here on Christmas. At 13, it is the Denver Broncos. Tough loss against the Los Angeles Chargers when they had a chance to wrap up a playoff spot. We'll see what they can do in the next couple of weeks with a couple of big games ahead for them. At 12, the Los Angeles Chargers, again, winning a game that they would have lost in the past. So it does feel like there is a bit of a shift going on in Los Angeles right now. They got a pretty good team there. At 11, it is Seattle. Disappointing loss against Minnesota. Don't want to drop them too far because I still think good things are happening there, although the playoffs may not be one of them. At number 10, it is Washington. That was a really good bounce back after their near loss against New Orleans. I still think this is a little bit more on Philadelphia losing it, and we'll get to them in a little bit, but that was a really good bounce back for them. The Rams survive and advance against the New York Jets. They come in at number 9. At 8, it is Green Bay. I still can't move them into another tier based off of a dominant performance against the Saints, but they are really finding their groove now, heading toward the playoffs. At 7, it's Pittsburgh. They drop out of the top 5, a tough loss. Pickens should be back, helping the offense, but again, this is back-to-back kind of concerning weeks for them. It just shows, like, this defense cannot have a bad game. At 6, it's Minnesota. It just feels like they have everything rolling right now, and honestly, maybe should be a little bit higher. But we'll see. If there's another stumble for a couple of teams in the top 5, Minnesota, I think, finds their way in there. At number 5, it is the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a concerning loss against the Commanders. We'll see the health status of Jalen Hurts now, but even without Jalen Hurts, they got 5 turnovers in that game. They should not have lost that game, so that's why the drop. Baltimore moves over top of them. They are at number 4 after a big win over the Steelers. Kansas City moving up to number 3 after a good win over the Houston Texans. They keep finding ways, man. At 2, the Detroit Lions. Questions about the pass rush and what they're going to do at the goal line, not even close to answered in that win over Chicago. And at number 1, you wish it was a bit more impressive this week, but a win is a win for the Buffalo Bills, who are the number 1 team in all the land in the NFL Power Rankings. That is going to do it for the show today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in all season long, all year long. I should say this is the final live stream of 2024. Deeds and Toxic, so happy you guys were in the chat. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you guys. I get so excited every time I see you guys pop in the chat. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for all the support this season. And again, sorry, this year. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Toxic. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in throughout the year. Things really started to shift in the back part of this year for Couch Potato Diary on YouTube and on a podcast. Still figuring out the Twitch stuff. That needs to grow a little bit, but we got a really fun community starting here. So hopefully all of that grows. But yeah, thank you guys, everyone, so much for hanging out with me this year. In terms of content going forward, on the podcast side, I did a year in review with the Fresh Take Network. I'm going to break that into 4 episodes, and that's going to play over the course of the next couple of weeks. I'm going to try to get some stuff recorded when I'm out in Saskatchewan, but the main focus is going to be family, so I probably won't be doing a whole lot while I am out there. So I'm going to try to spread out some of the videos out on YouTube and maybe find a few shorts that I can throw up and stuff like that. But then we're going to hit the ground running back in January with a whole lot of fun stuff planned. Hopefully I can pull the trigger on a bunch of it. But yes, thank you again, everyone, so much. Have a very safe and happy holiday season, and we'll chat again in the new year. Have a great rest of 2024, everyone. I'm out.